It all began when Coraline Jones stepped into the wrong door. A cold rain fell outside, gray and unrelenting. Her family had just moved into the Pink Palace apartments. A large, crumbling house turned into flats. Her parents were busy, always typing, clicking, writing things she didn't care about. Coraline was bored, forgotten, searching. That's when she found the little door in the drawing room. It was bricked up behind the wallpaper, locked, sealed. But one day, with the help of a strange black key, it opened. On the other side, something impossible. A mirrored version of her own world. Same house, but warmer, more vibrant. The food tasted better. The colors were brighter. Her toys came alive and danced when she wasn't looking. And her parents, they were there too. But different, smiling, attentive, loving. They had buttons for eyes. Coraline should have run. But she didn't. The other mother, as she called herself, made promises. Fun without rules, love without condition. Everything Coraline had ever dreamed of. All she had to do was stay, forever, and let the other mother sew black buttons into her eyes. Coraline hesitated. The air seemed colder. The smiles seemed stretched. Something wasn't right. And when she said no, everything changed. The other mother's face stiffened. Her voice lost its sweetness. And when Coraline tried to go home, the real door was gone. She was trapped. Coraline didn't run. Even as the other mother's smile stretched wider, even as the air in the house grew colder and the shadows longer, Coraline stood her ground. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she knew one thing. She was not staying here. Not with buttons for eyes. Not in this place that mimicked love but reeked of control. The other mother's tone shifted. No longer soft and sugary, it turned sharp, hollow, echoing like an empty hallway. But Coraline refused. She would not trade her eyes. She would not trade her soul. And then, things began to disappear. First, her real parents. She came home to find them gone. Not just out shopping or working, but vanished. Their belongings remained. Their coats still hung on hooks. But no sign of them. No note. No farewell. Nothing. Coraline waited. Hours passed. Days even. The house fell silent. Cold. Still. Then she saw it. In a mirror, high on the wall, flickering just for a moment, her parents. Trapped behind glass. Pale, frightened, reaching out as if from another world. They hadn't left. They had been taken. By her. By the other mother. Rage burned in Coraline's chest, replacing fear. She realized then what she must do. She would go back. Not to stay, but to fight. To outsmart the creature that had stolen her parents and trapped them like dolls in a case. Coraline returned to the other world once more. But this time, it was no longer beautiful. The walls twisted unnaturally. The sky was made of fabric. The trees looked painted on. The illusion was crumbling, and what lay beneath was something much more grotesque. The other father was no longer kind. He was sad, broken, a puppet now controlled by the other mother. Even the mouse circus turned against her, revealing their glowing red eyes and sharp little teeth. Everything here belonged to her. Everything here served her. Still, Coraline pressed on. In the quietest corners of this false world, she discovered whispers, ghostly voices, children's voices. They came to her in the darkness, three pale, translucent figures with hollow cheeks and stitched-up mouths. They were the lost souls of other children who had come before. Children who had been tempted. Children who had traded their eyes for buttons and love for a lie. But they were not gone. Not entirely. Their souls were still trapped, hidden in this world, scattered like seeds waiting to be found. They begged Coraline for help. If she could find their souls and escape with her own, they could finally be free. And so the game began. The other mother, sly and smiling once again, agreed to Coraline's challenge. A game of treasure hunting. If Coraline could find her parents and the souls of the lost children, she could go free. If not, she would stay forever and let the other mother sew those shiny black buttons into her eyes. It was a cruel game, a dangerous one, but Coraline had no choice. With nothing but a small stone with a hole through it, a talisman given to her by the strange women downstairs, Coraline began to search. Through twisted gardens, empty theaters, and collapsing playrooms, she followed the faintest traces of truth, using the stone to see what her eyes alone could not. Each soul she found brought a new piece of strength. Each ghost child she saved brought a whisper of hope. But the other mother watched her every move, her smile thinner, sharper, darker each time. And the clock was ticking. Coraline had found 2 of the lost souls. The first had been hidden in the hollow belly of a dying garden, where the flowers whispered warnings and the trees seemed to twist toward her when she turned away. The second had waited behind the rotting curtains of a ghostly theater, watched by the glassy eyes of dogs that no longer barked. Only one soul remained, and her parents, still trapped, still silent, were somewhere close, their presence haunting Coraline like the echo of a dream she couldn't quite remember. The other mother was changing. She no longer tried to pretend. Her face, once smooth and smiling, had begun to crack like old porcelain. Her fingers stretched longer than they should, sharp at the tips like needles. Her voice now creaked when she spoke, like wind in a rusted gate. She had run out of patience. "You're being difficult," she hissed. Coraline stood tall. "I'm not here to make things easy." Now the world itself turned against her. Rooms collapsed into each other. The sky unraveled like thread. The familiar melted into the monstrous. Nothing made sense anymore except Coraline's goal. Find the last soul. Find her parents. Win. And then, in the heart of the false house, she found it. The drawing room, twisted and cold, where the fireplace glowed green and wrong. Above it, a snow globe, simple, ordinary, and inside, frozen in place, unable to move, were her parents, trapped like insects in amber, alive but unreachable. Coraline stared at the globe, heart pounding. She knew this was it. She knew she had to act now. The last soul was hidden in the tallest room of the house, the attic guarded by the last broken puppet of the other mother, the other father. Once gentle and smiling, he was now bloated and sad, barely able to speak, forced to obey. "I'm sorry," he groaned as his hands, no longer his own, lashed out against Coraline. She ran, dodged, climbed, and in one final breathless leap, she snatched the last soul from the place where it had been buried, like a dying ember deep in the belly of the house. She had won the game. 3 souls, 1 snow globe, but Coraline knew the other mother would never let her leave so easily. The creature met her at the door, now tall as a shadow, hunched and monstrous, her button eyes gleaming like obsidian. No more kindness, no more disguise, just hunger. "You can't leave," she growled. "I won," Coraline said calmly. "That was the deal." The other mother laughed. Deals can be broken, but Coraline had planned for this. She tricked her, lied, pretended her parents weren't yet found, and as the creature lunged, Coraline threw the snow globe through the doorway, back into the real world. And then she ran, through the collapsing tunnel, through the melting walls, through the lies, the traps, the cries of the lost. She escaped. The little door slammed shut behind her, and Coraline locked it, nailed it, buried it beneath furniture. The world went quiet, real again. Her parents were home. They didn't remember what had happened. To them, it was like they'd simply gone out, gotten caught in the rain. But Coraline knew the truth. She didn't say a word. She just smiled and held them close. That night, the ghost children came to her one last time, their voices softer now, free of pain. "Thank you," they whispered. "We are free. Because of you." But the other mother was not gone. Not completely. Because evil, real evil, doesn't disappear. It waits. It watches. And Coraline, brave and clever Coraline, knew this. That's why, when she heard something slithering through the walls in the dark, she didn't scream. She followed it and faced it. One last remnant. A hand, severed from the creature, still seeking the key, still desperate to open the door once more. She lured it into a trap, dropped it into a deep well, sealed it forever. And then Coraline, just Coraline, not a hero, not a warrior, returned home. She made tea. She sat in the garden. She watched the wind move through the grass. And she smiled, because Coraline had looked into the heart of something monstrous and walked away stronger. Not because she wasn't afraid, but because she had been and chose to face it anyway. Time passed. The rain came and went. The garden bloomed and withered and bloomed again. Coraline still wandered the house sometimes, counted windows, tapped walls, but she no longer felt bored, no longer felt lonely, because now she understood something she hadn't before. The world was big and strange and sometimes cruel, but it was hers. She planted flowers with her neighbors, helped the old man feed his mice, and in the quiet moments, when the wind passed through the trees just right, she thought she could hear faint voices, the ghost children, whispering thanks carried on the breeze. The little door remained sealed. No more buttons, no more games. Coraline had won, but more importantly, she had learned that bravery isn't loud. It's a whisper in the dark that says, keep going. It's a child, small and alone, standing up to a monster and saying, no. And it's the choice, again and again, to love the real world, even when it isn't perfect, over a lie that pretends to be. Coraline never opened that door again. She didn't need to, because she had already found her way home.